Now it's time for Straight on the Point with Jesse T from some undisclosed location somewhere in the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Jesse T.
Well, it's good to be back with you. The Brown Beauty is back on duty. We are broadcasting live from the Gray Ghost, somewhere in an undisclosed location in the world here. Wasn't able to make it back to the Burbank studio that we usually broadcast from when we're down here in the Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley area. And wasn't able to make it into the Los Angeles studio of the Power of Voices, KTNT Radio and TV Network over there in Los Angeles by Sony Studios. We can't give you that direct location because sometimes Jesse T says some things and I don't want people to be waiting for me afterwards. One time I was working at a station, well, more than once. I was working at a station and I got to be the devil's advocate on this very controversial topic, man. They had bomb threats and they had bombs sent to the place that were fake bombs, and they had letters that were sent. They wanted to kill me, to lynch me, to shoot me, to drag me through cactus. It was just wild, But so we don't want any of that to happen here. Of course, we're broadcasting here. We've got a great show for you here today at a couple of places. So I want to give you a programming note here. We're trying to get in touch with Santa in the North Pole. Santa was supposed to do a Skype interview with us here, and we're having a little technical difficulty reaching up there to the North Pole right now for Santa. So if we can't get Santa today, we will certainly try to catch up with him a little bit later. But following Santa, we got about 10 or 15 minutes here into the show, and then we're going to move off and get in contact with one of my all-time favorite actors, and certainly one of America and one of the world's greatest actors. You have seen him in so many different things. This guy has just been around my whole lifetime. I've always loved him. New York grown, New York trained. Armin Assante is checking in. What a great, great actor, an actor's actor. He has just always been in great movies, had great lead roles, supporting roles, won lots of awards, and Armin Assante, we're going to be reaching out to him to talk about how the business has changed and some of the great things that he's doing right now, and how technology has changed the business and indie production and stuff like that. Armin Assante is going to be checking in here. Oh, let me check the time here. Probably in about 10 minutes, I know Lee back at the station is going to be giving him a call, and we're going to get him up on a radio interview live from his ranch in New York, upstate New York. It's a beautiful area, too, where he lives. Absolutely gorgeous. So we're looking forward to that as we still try to reach Santa and chat with Santa. Santa's got a new video out and a new book, and Chris Kringle was going to tell us some ways in which we could relieve our stress. This is the first year that I believe Toys R Us isn't going to be around. Yeah! If you're a parent, you're happy for that. If you're a kid, you're kind of sad. But if you're just a young kid, you wouldn't know any difference. But yeah, this is the first year Toys R Us won't be with us. Hey, you can catch the show today at Facebook.com/Jesse Torero. Now, I have you guys here on another phone right here. You can see Facebook.com/Jesse Torero. I want you guys to go over to our YouTube site, because as soon as we start bringing our guests on, you won't be able to hear it right here directly from Facebook.com/Jesse Torero. So I want you to go over to YouTube. That's a YouTube channel, Jesse Torero. JESSETORRERO YouTube channel. You can check it there. It's live. You'll be able to hear all the music and the videos that we're going to be playing, and some of the cool things that Armin Assante is going to talk about in terms of his great career. I mean, I certainly love his movie Gotti a lot better than John Travolta's recently released Gotti. Boy, it wasn't in the movie studios, the movie theaters for too long. That went to distribution for Walmart and Kmart and whatnot real fast. But the John Gotti movie with Armin Assante was certainly one of my favorite depictions of John Gotti. So much to talk about. I mean, he was way back in The Lords of Flatbush. That was the one that Sylvester Stallone starred in, as well as Henry Winkler, way back. And he's worked with Sylvester Stallone on several occasions, so we're going to kind of maybe get some insight what it was like working with, Sly, Sly. You know, I know Frank Stallone pretty good. I've never had the opportunity to meet Sly, but certainly Frank, the great artist that he is. So Armin's going to talk a little bit about that. Hopefully I can squeeze some secrets out of him the way Jesse T does. Hey, you can check us out on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. And if you do want to stay here on the Jesse T Facebook timeline site, you can stay there. Unfortunately, though, in today's show, you won't be able to hear or see any of the videos. So I encourage everybody to move over to YouTube, Jesse Terrero, or you can go over to facebook.com/The Power of Voices, facebook.com/The Power of Voices. That's our Facebook channel there at the station. That is our foundation station. And, of course, you can always hear the audio version of this fully mixed at www.thepowerofvoices.com. So I guess, you know, if we can't find Santa, and gosh darn it, Santa was going to give us some ideas on how to be less stressful this year. I got to tell you that one of the best things you can do with Christmas coming up is you can start buying your Christmas presents right now. That's when you should actually start buying them, in October, because it's not crowded, it's not crazy, it's not wild. You know, the parking lot's still a relatively, you can find a place to park. You don't have to park a mile and a half away just to buy a present for somebody. So, but I think most people today are probably going to go online. Well, Amazon's probably going to do a huge business, and eBay and whatnot. I mean, it's going to be just gigantic, probably going to dwarf last year tremendously, because more and more people are utilizing Amazon as their primary source for shopping for everything from nuts and bolts and hammers to groceries. And they're like the Sears catalog and the Montgomery Ward's or the Monkey Ward's catalog of years gone by in yesteryear. You used to be able to buy a house out of the Sears catalog. Heck, you could buy a bride out of the Sears and Monkey Ward's catalog. That's right. But I don't know if Amazon will ever sell brides, but they might sell house kits to build houses. You can just about get anything. So I think Amazon is probably going to be the place to get a job this Christmas. If you're looking for some extra money, just delivering stuff, they're going to probably be hiring lots of delivery people. And I guess maybe some of those Uber and Lyft drivers are going to get some Amazon maybe some Amazon business there too, perhaps, possibly. But Amazon's probably going to take over where Toys R Us has gone out of business. You know, it's really hard for these big box stores to participate in today's e-commerce and the way things are being distributed to customers like you and me now in service. In terms of that, we just don't want to go anywhere. So it doesn't look like we're going to get Santa on today. But we're going to try to get him on in the coming shows here. And he's got some great ideas on how to relieve stress, way beyond my idea of start buying your Christmas gifts right now. And so as soon as, Lee, as soon as you reach out to Armin Asante, maybe in about 3 or 4 minutes, you're supposed to arrive here on the phone line at a little after 5:15 our time, 15 minutes after the hour East Coast time. That would be 8:15. Clark Tang and Maria are checking in here. You guys might want to go over, and I'll be saying this periodically through the show, so just beg my pardon on that. But you guys might want to go over to YouTube, Jesse Terrero, because we're going to be able to pipe in all the videos that we want to play with his reel. Armin Asante is going to be checking in, the great actor here, in just a little bit, and I want you to hear the interview. You won't be able to hear it here on this apparatus right here on facebook.com/Jesse Terrero directly as you watch it. You'll be able to hear the mixed version as it gets piped into our Facebook timeline. But if you want to hear the show live and in action right now, you have to go to facebook.com/The Power of Voices. That's facebook.com/The Power of Voices. That's one spot. Or you can check it out at YouTube, Jesse Terrero, or YouTube, The Power of Voices. So you got 3 avenues there for you to check it out. What a day in news, man. More caravans coming towards America. We are just, it is really getting hot and dicey out there in the political world, isn't it? My goodness. So what are they going to do when the military arrives at the border on our side and those thousands and thousands of people arrive on the other side? I've got an opinion about that. I'll be talking about that tomorrow and what I think is going to happen, in my opinion. I think I got it pegged. But then, of course, I look at things kind of out of the box. and kind of look ahead and say, I wonder why they're doing this. Why is this happening? Not so much that it's happening, but who caused it? Where did it come from? Why did it start? All of a sudden now, we are very inquisitive in that area. So we're broadcasting live from the Gray Ghost today, somewhere in Los Angeles, California. Don't you just love the technology? It's just terrific how we can pipe everything in wherever you're at now. Anybody who doesn't grasp this kind of technology in media is just behind the ball. Last night, Dan the Man and I, we went out to see Frankenstein 200 Years. It's a terrific movie, 4 short Frankenstein stories in a film that took about 75 minutes. So there were 4 short stories in this film. Lots of terrific stars were checking in there too. People that were playing in Harry Potter. One of the Harry Potter stars was there. Mel Novak was there. T.J. Storm, a terrific martial artist, was there. He's in the new Predator movie. So that's out now. Also, a couple other distinguished people from yesteryear, from TV shows that there was a show called it was like Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits back in the 1970s. I think it was called Dark Ages or something like that. So some of the older stars, the iconic TV stars of that genre, were there. And a couple other folks that stopped by. Thomas Churchill was there, Big Joe Williamson, lots of people. And we had that Dan the Man is back with us, so we were there doing our thing and having a great time there doing our thing live at the red carpet in the premiere. And it's funny, it's ironic. I worked at that theater when I was 16 years old, way back in 1976. For a short period of time, about a month, because I didn't really like working in the theaters, making popcorn and all that stuff and cleaning it up after people would leave. But I worked at that theater back in 1976, and now we're doing premieres and red carpets there. Isn't that amazing how the world works sometimes? So check out the show here as we're waiting for Armand Assante to check in with us here, and we get an opportunity to talk to one of America's finest actors. This guy, I just kind of grew up with him. He was just been so terrific, and he's got so many great credits of really some big, huge pictures. We're going to talk about that, and we are looking forward to that interview. But a little bit more about last night. So Dan the Man and I were out there having a great time. It was good to be back out on the scene, and good to be happening there in that respect. And it was a packed house, just a packed house. It's really interesting, these premieres and red carpets. You have 2 types of them. You have ones that are really organized, and you have ones that are crazy wild. And this was one of those crazy wild ones. So you can catch that show that we did live from the Frankenstein 200 Years premiere here in Los Angeles. You can catch that show live on my Facebook timeline and facebook.com/Jesse Torero. All right, so we got Armand Assante on the phone, right?
How are you, man?
My friend, Armand Assante, everybody. What a great, great, great opportunity. I'm so blessed to have you all the way from the other side of the country in New York City, man. Thanks a lot for checking in with us for the few moments that you have. I know you're real busy, but you are just one of America's just most greatest actors. I loved everything that you've done, my friend.
Well, I think your introduction is surpassing anything I ever did. But I feel very blessed to have had an introduction such as the one you just gave me. But anyway, I'm here actually on my farm, 1 hour north of Manhattan. I've been here for the past 35 years. So
it's beautiful up in that part of the country, isn't it?
I love it. I love Manhattan. I know Manhattan like the back of my hand. But honestly, I live in complete silence, and I need complete silence. So I feel very, very blessed to be here, and very, very blessed to have had the work process to support it. So I'm very lucky. I love. By the way, I love living in LA. I love working in LA. I just don't choose to live in LA, but I've had some of the best experiences of my life in Hollywood. So.
It is a dynamically different different setup. New York and Los Angeles. I mean, they're so different from each other, and especially where you reside at. It's good to have a spot to get away from this crazy business, isn't it?
You know. I think it's not even the business; it's the world we live in. It's that there is so much information that the human brain is capable of absorbing. And one thing I did notice when I have lived in LA for extended periods of time, because it is a film community, it's a film and television community all the time. And one thing I was aware of was the amount of information that's exchanged in LA. And the thing is that a lot of production that is talked about is not happening for a very long time. And I think people get addicted to information channels that are not necessarily completely transparent in terms of when things are actually occurring. So I found, I love to work, and I love working in all kinds of genres. I love working with different directors, and I think in LA, there's a lot of fascinating talent to work with. But the thing is, I find the information channels about what's happening, I think people get distracted and, well, maybe I should be working with so-and-so, or maybe I should be working over here, or, I never tried that before.
You're right.
It's like a menu it's overkill on the menu,
Yeah, it's sort of like if you equate it to like the traffic in Los Angeles. It's going every which way really fast. There's on-ramps and off-ramps. There's millions of people on the freeways 24 hours a day now. And you ask yourself, where are all these people going? And they do get sidetracked so easy. I think because Los Angeles is so huge in terms of the enormity of the square footage of just the acres and acres, where New York is so compact, it is so personal in a different kind of fashion. It provides the actor with a different kind of feel.
Though I think the world, what I've noticed since the 70s, the world has descended upon both cities. Literally, the world has. And it's strange because I've been very lucky. I work internationally a lot, and I've worked, in some of the most remote, truly the most remote regions on the planet. But what I notice is a lot of parents will come to me in one of the most remote places in the world and say, "How do I get my kid into a school in New York or LA?" There's so many people that have come from abroad to get their children in the educational system we have here. And since the 70s, the world has descended on New York and LA, and a lot of people forget that they want to be part of the entertainment industry. And we have, in the U.S., we are not only the last great stable industry, we're one of the last great staple industries of this country, and the world has descended into it. It's a fact.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It really has started to descend into it with some of the different countries like Romania and Croatia, where they're starting to give these giant tax advantages and these profits back to the producers so that they are being profitable faster. It is starting to really erode into that. Like Sylvester Stallone, he does most of his movies in Europe. And a lot of these actors and producers are doing that now because of the incentives of the money. But you are very, very astute in the fact that this is still America's genre. Making films, entertainment, making TV shows, this really is a staple, like the automobile industry used to be in the 1960s and 1950s.
Yeah, and the incentives are extraordinary. Romania just gave out now a 45% incentive. That's unheard of.
That means half your budget kind of incentive.
You're going to see a lot of companies going to be moving over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you do a lot of business in that part of the world. What is some of the differences in terms of when you actually have a project and you're working it, and you're putting it together, and it's coming together? Is that part of the world more difficult to work in because it's so far away from the mainstream, or is it easier?
I think in some ways it's easier because there's not so much pressure over there in terms of the they're more concerned with the process. I mean, here I think economics is beginning to erode the creative process for a lot of artists, and I think there they are willing to indulge it a little more, if you will, for the sake of the project. Yeah. But generally, I'm finding, I mean, I've worked in some pretty faraway places, and I'm finding that the crews, because technologically now in the world, it's becoming one language, and I'm finding that the crews are just as efficient and up to speed, and sometimes even more clever with certain issues that involve technology all over the world. I mean, we become, technology has become one language.
So what is some of the most remote places that you've ever had to go shoot a scene somewhere in the world that you were saying to yourself, well, I don't know if I want to stand so close to that waterfall, or I don't know if I want to be so close to that volcano. I mean, what kind of things?
I worked. Believe it or not, I worked on a. I worked with a director who was actually Ukrainian Uzbek, and a very talented, phenomenal cinematographer. I mean, amazing. I mean, and I've known him for years, and I agreed to work with him on a documentary of all things, which I've actually never performed. It's the first documentary I actually performed in. But I was in Nukus, Uzbekistan.
Wait a minute, say that again.
Literally looks
Nukus what?
Not unlike the moon. And the area we worked in, it looked like the moon.
Wow.
Yeah, forever. I mean, it just looked like the moon. But it's a long drive. It's a long drive.
Yeah. I hope you don't have hemorrhoids or small back injuries. I'm telling you.
But
you know,
I've had some amazing lifetime experiences.
Yeah, we go all the way back to 1974, my friend, and we go back to the Lords of Flatbush, you know, with Sylvester Stallone for the first time, and Henry Winkler, and you know, of course, they're both out of New York too now. And you played, that was one of my favorite movies when I first saw that in '74. My friend, I was only 14 years old when I saw that in '74. I thought it was
actually
the coolest thing in the world.
I'm not in that movie. I mean, people seem to believe that I'm in. I'm actually not in that movie. I'm credited. They misspelled my name, by the way. But I was in the theater at the time, and somebody submitted. I'm actually a day extra at a wedding party, but I'm not in the movie. But but I was I was in really good company. It was a really phenomenal company. But oddly enough, here's a twist of fate. Not only did I work with Sly twice after that, but I worked with the guy that directed that film, Marty Davidson. I made a film with him.
Really?
A really lovely film. Yeah, he was a wonderful, absolutely wonderful director. And a wonderfully gifted man.
So all these actors out there trying
he made Lords of Flatbush. He made Eddie and the Cruisers. And the film I made with him was called Looking for an Echo.
I love Eddie and the Cruisers, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a
Marty is a wonderful director.
Yeah, and so one of these young actors out there now. So you got to listen closer to the Jesse T Show, because sometimes you get these really golden nuggets on how to launch your career. What you have to do is you have to be in a wedding ceremony near a movie that's being made, so you can get a part of the movie with the stars that are in it. And man, you're going to be a superstar like Armin Asante. I'm telling you, man, I think I got something.
Yeah. It only took all of 35 years. It was very simple.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're a star overnight, but it took 35 years. That's that great Johnny Carson. You know, he made it overnight. He's an overnight sensation, but it only took 35 years. I always had that. I always wanted to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with Johnny about some of these crazy stories that come up. In your career, though, you've done some really terrific projects. Like I personally think the John Gotti project that you did, it was far better than John Travolta.
I haven't seen the that new version. I haven't seen it. But you know, that project, the Gotti project, was a result of an incredible team. You know,
Yeah,
Bob Cooper was the head of HBO at the time.
John Gotti. How do you approach playing John Gotti of all things?
Well, I mean, the team. I mean, the fact that Bob Cooper was the head of HBO at the time. Bob Cooper actually was formerly, people don't know this, he was an organized crime lawyer. So he was very astute in terms of what the story was. And then you had Vincent Patrick and Steve Shagan, phenomenal writers that wrote a lot from the original transcripts, because Gotti was probably the most recorded
mafia boss ever.
Yeah, ever. And then you had Robert Harmon directing it and Gary Lucchese producing it. So, I mean, the team that we had going into the project was second to none. And I think it has a lot to do with the whole outcome of it, because from that team we started to pick up the rest of the team. And, you know, it became a real organic unit, you know. And I studied the transcripts very meticulously, so there was tremendous wealth of material to draw upon. But I mean, I have to tell you, you know, writers like Steve Shagan and Vincent Patrick, they don't come along too readily. And
these guys are geniuses.
Producers like Gary Lucchese and Robert Harmon, who directed, they're very, very special people, you know. Very special.
Yeah,
so I mean, I think that, and I think Bob Cooper's belief in the project for so long, it shows that, you know, it was the work. It was a real team effort, and people tend to forget that. You know, they look at a movie. I mean, you know, people have also often asked me, well, what is your favorite project, or did you have one that really stuck out? The only what sticks in your mind is the relationships you have with people. I've had so many phenomenal relationships, and I was so blessed. I came out of the theater, and when I went to L.A., I was probably 27, 28. But my point is that the result of any of the work I did in L.A. in my lifetime was all about relationships. I mean, I had incredibly forged relationships with directors, and I worked with some of the best and the brightest, and I was very, very lucky. But I think that's what I remember more than I do the project, you know?
You know, Armin, you came up at a time when the industry was really changing from the studio system, of course, which broke up in the 60s and the early 70s. But you came up in a time when the independent producer, the independent production company, Miramax, and things like this were starting to develop themselves and get the funding and things like that. And that must have been like a breath of fresh air for a guy like you coming up and working as much as you worked.
It was a blessing, and I tell you, I went to Sundance in 1983. I met Redford. I went through his lab. I made two of the first films out of Sundance, and that was the real beginning of the independent, I mean, low-budget independent film movement, considering budgets next to what Hollywood was making films for. But my point is that I don't think Redford has ever gotten the credit. I mean, I know Sundance now is like Cannes, but the point is that Redford not the creative credit that he deserves, because what he was doing is, aside from mythologizing Hollywood, he was teaching young people the language of film and how to make film, and that you work with a writer and you work with a producer, you work with a director, you work with a cinematographer. He was teaching the skills to younger people, such as myself, and I was working with young writers, young directors that were finding their way as well. And the thing is that I don't think he ever got the real creative credit for what he did, because he revolutionized the American independent film movement.
He gave it some legs. He gave it a place, a foundation to show it off, and he gave it a place where really great storytelling could be done. And I miss those days of the great scripts and the writing and the storytelling compared to today. We've lost that ability to write, in terms of that. Where are the writers now?
Yeah, the writing energy is very. I mean, in fact, I had a conflict on the first project I did at Sundance, and Redford brought in Waldo Salt. I mean,
wow.
talk about doing something radical to improve a project, but just to be able to mentor your problem with a man like Waldo Salt for 4 days, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. And I think the writing energy, I mean, I think the independent film world right now, the writing energy, of course, has moved into television. I mean, in television right now is the independent film movement. It really is. I mean, some of the stuff coming out of television is phenomenal. And the thing is, writing energy, I think, changed when the economics changed.
Yeah, the HBO, Netflix, that's the cable version of television, and the internet, of course, Amazon Prime and Google TV, and these things that are coming on board really fast right now. That's provided so much more great productions that the network TV production facilities couldn't do for a myriad of reasons. And the technology has afforded that, and it has allowed this, I say, a third phase of the creative process in the entertainment business. This third phase of this marriage of technology and the art form is really going to create some stuff in the next 5 or 6 years. And you're working on some terrific new projects. You've got a couple of things that you're a part of. Let's talk a little bit about that. You've got a couple of things
the stuff that I'm involved in is still gestating.
Yeah.
I'm involved in a new film with Charlie Massow, absolutely wonderful man and a wonderful director, and we're still in the throes of finishing that film. It's not finished yet, and then I'm involved in a project I shot in Romania. We won 5 festivals right out of the gate, but whether or not we can develop it into an international series is another story. I've written the format for either a major film or series myself, and I'm involved in 2 productions in development. But the thing is that, you know, what you said earlier is to me, writing is everything. You know, I live by the motto: if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. And the thing is, any actor knows that there's a lot of your career that you'll end up doing a lot of mediocrity just to feed your family. And the thing is, writing is what's critical to the success of any performer. If the writing is not there, and I read all year long. But the fact of the matter is, you know, it's very rare when you get a script that really is a story that, you know, can universally touch a lot of people. That's very rare. Very rare.
I was looking at your IMDb site and recently, and just at the top of it, and you can correct me if I'm not right here, but you've got like 9 projects that are being juggled up in the air or in the process of.
Well, you know, a lot of people they put that out there, but in fact they're people that are looking for financing.
Yeah. Well,
most of that
stuff is the name of the game of the indie, looking for money. I mean, that's the key right there. And that's interesting, you know, in terms of the money and how films are financed today. They're financed so differently than they were just 15 years ago. It's amazing how it's changed. And
I think in a strange way, I think the way the market has changed so radically, I think it's extremely hard now to find financing for almost anything, because the difficulty is in what's happened where, I mean, networks have become apps, and there's such a vast market to fill.
Yeah.
There's such a vast market to fill that what is the value? What is the value of a project? That's the issue. Whether the project has real value in terms of whether it's marketing or a wide market audience. Where do you sell that project? Where is your market? Very, very complicated animal today. So I don't envy anyone who's producing a film, because when the meltdown happened, I'll give you an example. I was in Cannes in 2009. It was empty. It was literally
Right.
empty. And I remember hearing a term. I remember hearing somebody say, so-and-so just sold his $15 million film for $3 million. Or so-and-so just sold a $20 million film for $2 million. So, I mean, when the economy collapsed, it really, it eviscerated the value of film. And ironically, that was the same year that the technology skyrocketed. So all of a sudden, you had cameras. You had cameras the same year that the economy collapsed that you could make a film for nothing for.
That's right.
So the balance was upset so radically that it's a different world.
And with the youngsters coming out and jumping into business now with all this technology and cameras and equipment and the technology of the internet and the technology on how they put things together so quickly, digitally instead of actual film-wise, it is unbelievable how it has changed. And I've argued the point. This is why the big major studios only make what I call cartoon movies. You know, with the big green screens and the blowing up and the shooting and all that stuff, because that's the only thing that they can recoup their investment, that business model. And they don't even want to do independent stuff. And it's so hard for good storytelling to get a foothold, because the young people today, they want cut, blow up, cut, blow up, cut, blow up. Their whole idea of entertainment has changed.
Yeah, I'm on the board of a couple of film festivals, and the only thing I could tell you is that the good news from everything that's happening now is that because of that networks now have become literally apps, there is a greater market to absorb how many terrific films most audiences may never see. And the thing is that I remember being on a film festival in Ukraine. I watched 70 films in 1 week. Not one of those films was ever distributed. Not one. They were brilliant films. But the point is, today, it is feasible that those films will be seen on one of these new networks. So, I mean, for young people, it's exciting in that at least there are places for projects to be seen. Because when that, God forbid, when that market dries up, I mean, young people don't have a shot.
Yeah, they really,
time.
You know, what's next?
We're going through an amazing transition.
Let me throw some movies that you did at you, and give me your quick response to your feelings about that movie. Doing Private Benjamin was another favorite of mine, Goldie Hawn.
I mean, you have to remember that's one of the greatest comedy teams that, you had Goldie Hawn, you had Harvey Miller, you had Charlie Shire, you had Nancy Myers, who went on to become a legend, Howard Zieff, there was so many, Eileen Brennan, I mean, Albert Brooks, I mean, it's just flooded with talent, and you know, that's all I can tell you, and not only that, but the chemistry among everyone was just one of those magical mystery tours, but remarkable.
You must have just had
experience.
A blast, because you do comedy really well. You're a very funny comedic actor. You really are, and you must just have had a blast doing that with all those people.
I have to remind myself of that when I'm wandering around my farm. I have to remember that. But you know, that was just an amazing group of people.
Well, you don't know. I'm going to charge you $25 for this interview for all these compliments, okay? I'll even settle for $10.52, but the 52 cents is really important to me. Hey, the Mambo Kings, man. Come on. Perfect fit for you. A Mambo King. Yeah.
It was you know, again, the marriage of so many great artists from Cuba, and there were so many, I mean, really major talented people involved in the making of that film. Even the crew members, it's staggering. The crew alone, but I mean, let alone what was in front of the camera. It's just, you know, almost every major musical talent that came out of the Latin American jazz movement was part of that project.
Just a great movie. A great movie.
You know, there was what can I say? The tone of what that film was came from the people themselves.
That was such a cool, man. It was so cool. That movie was what you just say was cool. It was just cool. You know what I mean? That Latin kind of just cool, man.
It's a very, very beautiful novel, and we actually did 50% of the novel. We did the first half of the novel. The novel is very, it's a very tragic novel, but beautiful, beautifully written. Again, right? It's all writing, right? That was Oscar Huelos who wrote the novel.
Yeah, man,
Phenomenal
writer. Every guy
he died way too young too.
Every guy in America who's ever seen this film has got to be totally jealous of you. I mean, acting with Demi Moore in Striptease, really? I mean, my God, what a fantasy come true. Demi Moore, what a terrific talent. And so, she has such great business acumen. She is so smart.
Yeah. It was another great group of people. Burt Reynolds, I mean, really, I was blessed to have been part of, probably about 10 projects in L.A. that were just phenomenal groups of people. It's that simple. They were phenomenal groups of people.
You keep referring to the people, and the people are so important. That team, that camaraderie that happens when you're making a great film or you're on theater and making a great cast, that together everybody achieves more. And it really is. It really means something to you. It really makes the film and the production better, doesn't it?
Well, it's not only people-driven, and I mean that, the humanity of people, but also talent. You're talking about projects that are immensely gifted people. So, I mean, to be in the company of people like that is a miracle. That those kind of people can come together, and one of the things I will always cherish about Hollywood and the LA community is that throughout its entire history, some of the more gifted people on the planet emigrated to Hollywood, and they came together and they worked together, and Hollywood in that sense has very much been part of the voice of the world, and a lot of people don't interpret it that way. But if you go around the world, like I have, I've lived in the most remote places ever, and the thing is that you'd be amazed at the language that Hollywood has broken through. Because generally the values that these people had were bespoken in the stories they told. And the stories they told had to be told.
Right.
They were not stories they just were making up off the top of their head. Those stories had to be told. So, I mean, I always feel some people kind of, I don't know, they cheapen the word Hollywood when, in fact, it was a major source of information. And maybe not quite the voice of America, but my point is that it is a place where the world found a common denominator. Because we all have the same human story.
Say it is the voice of America. The filmmaking, and it changed the globe. It changed God's blue-green earth, man. What we put together in this country, and what the people of the world watched and dreamed and would strive to be a part of, and people would learn how to speak English just by watching films. They learn how to speak Spanish, Italian by just watching films. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But I got this image right now. I've got this image of you on your farm and like Green Acres, the place you ought to be. Farm living is the life for me. Darling, I love you, but give me Park Avenue. What do you do on your farm, man? Do you grow things? Do you raise animals? Or are you just digging up the dirt, brother? What are you doing out there?
I do a little bit of both. I used to raise a lot of animals. I think after the meltdown, I was on the road. I've been on the road more than I ever have in my life. But I raise a lot of animals here, and I have farmers that work everywhere here. But the thing is that for me, it's just I find I really need silence and quiet, because I spend a good part of the year on the road, and I'm thrilled when I am home because of the quality of just not being exposed to the cacophony of what's out there, which is just, if you go to the city, it's intense. It actually will pull energy out of your body.
Well, we had the opportunity to run across each other at a premiere in Hollywood, with Buzz Aldrin was there, and I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with you. It was just absolutely terrific. But you're right, the energy that gets pulled from you and that you have to exude, and doing that every day. I mean, I used to go on the road. I've been in 43 nations. We've had a lot of record company business and acts and stuff that I owned, and we went on the road around the world. It really is a drain. It's nice to come home and just have peace and quiet. It really is something simplistic like that.
Well, I think too is that you realize that you're in order to work, you have to really respect and preserve your body. It's so important to take care of your health. I mean, you know. Well,
I'll tell you what. You
I
must
know guys that could, you know. I know a lot of actors that could out party me forever. But the point is that at the end of the day, you have so many days in your life, and you have to protect them. You know, I protect my life for my kids. You know.
Yeah, right on,
it's
man.
that simple.
I do too. The next generation, and. Even though they're in their 20s and they're doing well for themselves, but absolutely, I hear what you're saying. I'm right there with you. Maybe that's our Italian upbringing a little bit, you know, because maybe that's it. A little bit of old country and a little old school in us. The world is a crazy place today, my friend. It's a crazy place all around the world, and I don't know what to make of it sometimes. I have my opinions about it, but my goodness. It is. We've got to do something on this planet to make it better. You know, it's just kind of gone haywire, hasn't it?
Well, there's a lot of you know, I think there's a lot of polarities that we're seeing evolve in the world right now. I have to hold to the fact that I remember in the '60s. When I was still a kid, it was probably the most tumultuous time on the planet, for real. And the only thing I would tell you is that that in itself was a very steep transition and adjustment, and I'm hoping that this one will come through peacefully with some kind of peaceful resolution, because at that time there was no peace, and it was unbearable. The price of life. You know, the other night I was at the USO event gala in Chicago for all divisions of the military. All divisions of the military, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The photographer I was waiting for, he was going to take a photo. He was photographing, I noticed on the wall, he was photographing dog tags. And he was standing next to a young girl. And I waited for a few minutes, I got distracted, I was looking at a Jeep of all things. And then the photographer came over, and he was very upset. I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Did you see what I was photographing?" I said, "Yeah, it was amazing. You were photographing the dog tags." And he said, "No, did you see what I photographed?" I said, "The dog tag." He said, "That was the girl's husband. He's dead." And this girl was all of 22 years old. She lost her husband in Iraq or Afghanistan. But I mean, that's what rocks you, and you realize, you know, that's, to me, that stops all the cacophony.
But brother, man, I can't go down to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., that beautiful black granite they have the names etched out in. I get at the top of it. I take 3 steps down into the V as you descend down in there. The moment I see some family touching their name, that's it. I totally appreciate what you're saying. It just rips you like like nothing.
And there were a few moments I had at that event where I saw people talk about their loved ones. And it was just so, I mean, it kind of reduces everything, all the noise, all the polarities, all the anger. It kind of reduces it to zero.
Yeah, this is a good spot to end the show, man, because, what you're saying is truth from the soul. And really, life comes down to just a few simple things. When you get past all the distractions, you get past all the glitz, you get past all the things that we think we desire and want and need in our lives. But it really just comes down to just a few simple little things. And when you're jerked back and you get hit with that, like you did in Chicago, and I did at the Vietnam Memorial every time I go there. It really makes it very understanding that something has to be done that is pure and honest and positive, and we have to make some changes because we can't have that kind of feelings in our people.
Yeah, there's a monumental amount of human suffering in the world right now, and that I think that is the cause of a lot of angst and a lot of anger. But the point is that. I mean, I always think whenever I have an axe to grind, I say to myself, you know what, look to the right and look to the left and just shut up.
We're going to end it right there, man. Armin Asante, everybody. I mean, what a pleasure. I kept you much longer than I thought I was going to be able to keep you. I've enjoyed my conversation. Our audience is buzzing in on it.
Me too. I love this.
Brother, when you come to town again, we got to hook up. You got to come down to the station. We got to go out and get a bite to eat. We got to chat about some things, and because I really, really have enjoyed this from not just a professional level, but I've enjoyed this conversation with you, man.
Me too, man. Thank you so much. And I promise I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, and you be safe in other parts of the world, and I know you're running all around and. You get refreshed and recharged at your farm, and maybe someday you can come out to my Wyoming ranch of 500 acres, and we can go play out there too.
Listen to me. Listen, thank you, man, and I'll talk to you real quick. And God bless you.
God bless you. We're gonna end up with Armin Asante's reel. Lee, if you could run that for me and take us out in the Jesse T Show tonight. Appreciate it, Armin. Have a great life, and we'll talk some more and look forward to chatting with you again. And Lee, let me know when you get that thing hooked up and ready to go.
Thank you.
Armin Asante, everybody. What a great conversation we had with him. I mean, touching a little bit on the past, touching a little bit about what today's all about. This guy's a real guy. I mean, he's a real person. He's not one of these people that he's on some pedestal up there. This guy is the real deal. What you heard today and is just genuine, and I dig genuine people like that because they got a lot to say. And he is a star. This guy's iconic. He has done so much great stuff. He was one of my father's favorite actors. In that respect. Do we have enough time, Lee, to play a little bit of that reel? Yeah? Maybe play about 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes of it. Take us out.
He thinks he's the last Coca-Cola in the desert.
I just can't believe that you were in this army.
Well, I knew you better, I'd show you my dog tags.
How much better?
You tell me who she is, or I'll fucking...
She's my sister! Your wife! Sister! Wife!
I caused the revolution! You betray the law! Law! You're the bastard!
You want me to leave?
You are no longer worthy of me.
Why weave that? Did someone come to you? Was it Hermes?
I want it fucking dead! That's what I want! I want the fucking backbones, what I fucking want!
What do the lawyers say, Jimmy?
Fuck the lawyers! Fuck the law! I don't want law, I want justice!
Yeah, what does that mean?
I'm gonna do what I gotta do!
I know, what does it mean?
You know, I'm sitting on something. I gotta say it to your face, counselor.
Say it.
Well, I gotta say, maybe you don't want these guys to hear it, you know?
Oh, say it, honey dripper. Say it and get out.
What do you think? You're smart? You think I don't know why you got me down here in this cockamamie case? Of course, she's with me now. White bread. Oh, yeah, I know all about you and my old lady. She told me everything. If I catch you sniffing around her, you're gonna get much more than you could ever handle. I really don't give a shit if you're the law, whatever the fuck you are. Okay? You've been warned, kid.
You ever point your finger at me again, I'll break it off and shove it up your ass.
Okay. I guess now we both been warned.
How bad do you want an execution here? How bad do we want an execution? This man is not being pushed off some island. This man is not being voted out of a dormitory. This man is being voted off the planet. That's not justice. That's just television.
And I gotta drink more bitter coffee, because the spit made cannot even run a fucking espresso machine. I gotta sit with that zombie Bilotti, dope him in my ass. I gotta go out to the island now to talk to Bobby about stolen watches. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know I could have been a meter maid? I could have worked for UP-fucking-S and made more fucking money. Hey, they know me. I know who I am. I'm not embarrassed by who I am. I'm not gonna sit in the dock here like some fucking rat. Basic rules. Gives you a little power, right? Not the kind of power these feds have. God forbid, right? God forbid we pull their chain in public, right? Fucking dress better than them, they take it personal, like it's a fucking vendetta. Right? They're supposed to act better than the rest of us. Just want me to be something I wasn't even born to be.
Humble.
Humble.
They want you to be humble.
Yeah, so you humble me. What you got now? You got a war? You got a global war? You got the Chinks, you got the Dominicans, the Asians, the Russians, the Colombians, the Jamaicans. What they doing? They desecrate the nation. You got your veritable fucking snowstorms of cocaine and smack, whatever the hell else they shove in their veins. You got a worldwide crime syndicate now. There's no rules. There's no parameters. There's no feelings. There's no feelings for this country.
Anarchy.
You got anarchy. So? 5, 10 years from now, they're gonna wish it was American Cosa Nostra. 5, 10 years from now, they're gonna miss John Gotti.
And you I crown the Empress Josephine.